Welcome to Forest of Ash, Lesson 3, Hoodoo. Hoodoo, in the form that we know, can be traced back to the early 19th century, possibly earlier. Hoodoo is the American name for African American folk magic. Many religions sprang from the African traditions such as Yoruba, Santeria, Voodoo, and Candomblé. Hoodoo came out of those beliefs and is a magical practice, not an actual religion. And it is definitely not voodoo, as is commonly mistaken. Voodoo or voodoo is a Haitian African religion, or voodoo, which is West African. Voodoo, as we recognize it, was established during the times of slavery in America, using the native plants and items available to the people at that time, and probably taking a little knowledge from the Native Americans too, with definitely some European folk magic thrown into the mix as well. Although I do believe a good amount of the voodoo magical practices were brought with them, they didn't arrive as slaves with no beliefs or practices at all. A lot of the slaves at the time were forced to follow the Catholic religion. What they did was to incorporate the saints, deities, and rituals into their own religion. Santeria is a good example of this, although they also included the darker side of magic, such as curses and hexes as well. They would have been influenced by the folk magic of from their own cultures. If you take a look at the blues music from the times of slavery, you will find a huge amount of reference to hoodoo in the lyrics. Hoodoo is a practice of magic which is based on surviving and the need for things such as healing using herbs, plants, roots, bones, minerals, and the like, combined with chants, rituals, and handmade items. It is based around a main frame of intents: love, success, luck, happiness, health, and wealth. It is also a form of magic that works with your own personal power. Although I suspect the practitioners of hoodoo in America rarely call it by a name, it is just what they do, what they grew up doing, what their mothers and grandmothers did. Hoodoo is often referred to by other names such as conjure or root work. In fact, a practitioner of this magical practice is often called a root worker or conjurer, and sometimes referred to as a hoodoo doctor. Like a lot of magical practices, hoodoo uses the magical properties of natural items, including the traditional herbs, roots, and minerals, but it also makes use of animal parts and bodily fluids. No, don't worry, you don't have to bash any wild animals, but you will be able to use bones from your Sunday lunch, roast chicken, or if you aren't too squeamish, roadkill. The practice includes such things as jinxing, foot track magic, crossroad magic, and laying tricks. Foot track magic works with the essence of the person by using their footprints. Crossroads magic works by leaving magical items at a crossroads, no surprise there, or a place where two roads intersect. Crossroads are magical places and always have been. And probably the most well-known item for a hoodoo practitioner to use is a mojo bag. But in hoodoo, the use of candles, incense, oils, powders, talismans, and spiritual washes is also common practice. Originally, those who worked with hoodoo would probably have used whatever they could get their hands on, using lamps and plain white candles for spell work. Dressing only with blessed olive oil and using basic items and ingredients that they had to hand, just as anyone would have that worked with folk magic. At some point in the history of hoodoo and in my research, it seems to have been about the time of the Civil War, people started to market oils, coloured candles, and vinegars, and gave them fantastic names that we now associate with hoodoo products. But as with most magical practices, my advice would be use what seems right to you, use what you have to hand, and what your intuition and instinct tells you is right. You don't need to splash out on huge amounts of cash on branded products. You can make most things you need yourself. If you do purchase items from a shop or online, I would suggest you check out their credentials first and what ingredients they use. There are some wonderful retailers out there, but there are also some bad ones too. In my research, I have discovered that hoodoo was influenced by European magic as well. Remember that slaves were brought to America from many different countries. It has also surprised me how many of the hoodoo practices are similar to or the same as those of European folk magic and indeed what used to be called gypsy magic. This is my interpretation of hoodoo and how I work with it within the craft. I have tried to make it as accurate as possible and have drawn on many sources as well as my own experiences. I've drawn upon original recipes for oils, powders, incenses, etc., and have tried to be as traditional as possible with the ingredients for the well-known ones. But other recipes included here are my own blends and therefore may not be so traditional. My intention is to honour the art of hoodoo and folk magic across the world and all those who practice it. What actually is hoodoo? Hoodoo is a magical practice, the primary function being healing using herbs, plants, roots, trees, animals, minerals, natural waters, using them alongside amulets, chants, rituals, and power objects. It is natural and practical. It covers blessings of homes, peaceful environments, and keeping out unwanted spirit. It also deals with love, relationships, health, happiness, luck, fortune, and success, but also covers binding, hexing, and unhexing. An important part of working hoodoo is the laying of tricks and fixing tricks. These are very similar to gypsy magic workings and folk magic. The most common item used is a small bag filled with herbs and magical items known as a mojo bag, a gree bag, or a nation sack. I do want to talk a bit about the word mojo here. For those of you who have seen any of the Austin Powers films where he uses the word mojo as a sexual reference, this is not what mojo means. Mojo is more about spirit and power. A mojo bag is essentially an amulet used for various intents. The bag is usually carried close to your body. If someone steals your mojo, what they have actually done is stolen your amulet bag, thus taking away your hopes and dreams with it. A mojo bag is a very personal item. It carries with it your own personal energy. So it is very precious and you do not want it falling into the hands of another. Hoodoo also uses a lot of magical oils and incense. These can be used on your body, in burners, around the home, or to dress candles. Hoodoo also uses salts, magical powders, and sweet waters for spiritual cleansing, bathing of the body, left around the home and in workings. Divination in hoodoo incorporates the use of natural items such as bones, crystals, stones, shells, twigs, along with tea leaf and coffee ground reading, water scrying, and crystal gazing. In hoodoo, you use the energies of ancestral and nature spirits for protection, divination, healing, blessings, and if you choose to use them, curses. Hoodoo is also a huge subject with a lot of spiritual diversities and connections. Can't go into it all here, but this will hopefully give you at least a taster. Roots. Root work is another name for hoodoo. It is about understanding and working with herbalism and nature. Roots are an important ingredient in hoodoo. The root of a plant contains a lot of good energy, and they are the source of life for the plant itself. If we use the root in a working, we are essentially tapping into that life source of energy. Although we must be mindful here, if you take the roots of a plant, it is not likely to grow back, so use it sparingly. Trees. Trees play a big part in hoodoo. A good hoodoo practitioner will know everything there is to know about trees and their magical uses. They will know and understand the mysteries and secrets that the trees have to share with us. The bark, wood, leaves, and flowers are all used in hoodoo. Part of hoodoo practice is called sticking, which is a way of piercing something. Think about sticking performed on a puppet, but it also covers sticking thread into a piece of fabric or sticking our magic until it works. Stones. Stones are also used. They hold huge amounts of energy and history. Think about how long a stone or pebble has been around. Any stones you use in hoodoo will need to be charged, as you would in most magic, by leaving them out in the sun or moonlight, soaked in special waters, or anointed with oils or salt. Bones. Now, I know some people shudder at the thought of using bones, and I am certainly not advocating that you pop out to your nearest forest and bop a deer on the head just to get a bone for a spell. But a lot of us do eat chicken, and there are lots of bones in the carcass once we are done with it that can be utilised. And if you can stomach collecting and preparation, or have a willing helper, roadkill can also be utilised. Some hoodoo workings also include chicken's blood. However, bones are extremely useful. The bone of an animal holds its spirit, and it has the essence and energy of that animal in them, and can be extremely powerful. Using the bones of an animal you have eaten or one that has been roadkill is a good way of honouring the life of that animal. But having said that, it's not compulsory. If you don't feel comfortable with using bones, then don't. Shells. Any shell is a representation of and a connection to the element of water. Cowrie shells especially feature prominently in hoodoo magic. The word cowrie is from the Sanskrit kauri and represents the yoni, female genitalia, of the universe. You only have to look at the base shape of a cowrie shell to see the connection. It represents rebirth. The cowrie shell indicates our connection to the sea and to Mother Earth. The shells are used in hoodoo for purity, cleansing, and new beginnings. Metals. Another important part of hoodoo is to use metals: silver, copper, brass, iron, lead, and lodestone. They all have their own individual magical properties and can be used as you would crystals. Silver represents the sea, the goddess, and the moon, helps with intuition, dreams, fertility, and love. Copper, healing, and a good conduit for spiritual healing energy, works well when combined with quartz crystals. Copper pennies are used in hoodoo charms for luck and money magic. Brass, used in place of gold, as it has all the magical properties but no vanity, good for love magic. Iron, this represents one of the Orisha deities, Ugan, a warrior and protector. Nails are used a lot in hoodoo workings. Lead, this holds and delivers intent. You can use a simple lead pencil when writing out spells to utilise the power of lead. Lodestone, for love, luck, and prosperity. Fool's gold and pyrite are also used. Ash. Ash is nature. It is the invisible power that is nature herself. Ash, as in all natural things, plants, stones, herbs, and anything that you make from them, such as herbal teas, spiritual washes, charms, soaps, and even your magical words contain ash. Mojo bags. Traditionally, these are medicine bags that are prepared by a naga, priest or priestess, referred to in hoodoo practice as a root worker. The items inside each bag guide the spirits to understand what intent is being sought. The items used in these bags all have strong ash. For instance, soil from the footprint of a human or an animal, graveyard dirt, ground bones, nails, stones, shells, etc. Each item has a corresponding spirit and particular magical energy attached to it. To mix the parts all together properly, techniques called Daliwu are used. The Daliwu is a ritual during preparation that it activates these energies. And these items in your mojo bag now have a combined intent. All the energies are working for the same cause, but they need feeding. Sometimes a matching pair of lodestones is also added to the mojo bag to draw the intent that we need. Mojo bags are alive with ash, so they need to be regularly sprinkled with feeding powder. This gives the items inside a boost and a charge of magical energy. Feeding powders can be made from ground herbs, magical sand, oils, dust, and dirt. Whatever combination works for the intent of that particular mojo bag. Some examples of mojo bags. These are my own recipes, so if you use them, I always think it's best to just use them as a guide. Add your own ingredients, tailor the recipes to you. Money Draw Mojo. A green flannel, felt, or material bag with green ribbon to tie it. 6 cloves, a green feather, a small piece of green aventurine, a nutmeg, a sprinkle of mint leaves, a honeysuckle flower. The feeding powder, ground to a fine dust, mint leaves, poppy seeds, a small piece of John the Conqueror root, and 3 drops of clove oil. Stay away mojo. Can be used to keep negative people away from you or your property. Black or orange flannel felt material bag with matching ribbon to tie it. Pinch of dirt, preferably graveyard. 1 small piece of black onyx. 3 juniper berries, 3 sage leaves, an iron nail, 1 star anise. Feeding powder ground to a fine dust. Black peppercorn, pinch of cayenne pepper, eggshells, 3 drops of dragon blood oil. Nation sacks. I want to just mention nation sacks too, similar to a mojo bag but specifically for women. Men should not be allowed near the nation sack. These bags are traditionally used for women and children as a protection, although occasionally used to draw love. Part of the idea of the nation sack is the secrecy that surrounds it. Spirit washes and cleansing. The home is at the heart of hoodoo. They are very aware that energies and vibrations can be tracked into the house. So the foot track magic in hoodoo deals with this. There are lots of ways for negative energy to be brought into the home via the doorways, the path, in the mail, and even by family members. As witches, we usually regularly clean our homes by smudging, which hoodoo practitioners do, but there are some other options as well. Salt. Place a little into the 4 corners of each room. Inviting spirit. Invite good spirits and ancestors into your home by burning a small amount, a spoonful should do, of either tobacco, sage, cedar, or pine on a piece of charcoal. Dusting. Yep, I know, sounds boring, but dust can hold negative energies. Sweeping. Using a besom, sprinkle the bristles with blessed water or an oil blend specially made up to cleanse and purify. Start at the front of the house and work your way through to the back. In hoodoo, the dust and dirt from a house sweeping is collected up and disposed of ritually. Wrap it up in something that will easily biodegrade and leave it at a crossroads, walking away without looking back, or throw the package into the sea or a river. Please make sure that it is all biodegradable. If it is just dust and dirt, it can also be flushed down the toilet. Hoodoo love spirit washes, using them to wash floors, skirting boards, wooden fixtures and fittings, counters and appliances. Begin your cleaning at the back door and work your way to the front of the house. Fill a large stock pot or cauldron with water and bring to the boil. Add 6 tablespoons of herbs of your choice. Use a mix if you wish, something like rosemary and sage, or lavender, mint, or pine. Boil for a further couple of minutes, then add a good squirt of washing up liquid and stir. Allow the mixture to cool, then sieve. You can add a few drops of essential oil at this point if you wish, orange, geranium, or pine work well. Pour into a bucket and add a bit of water to dilute. Then begin your mopping and sponging. Pour the dirty liquid down the front step of your house or onto the pathway and then scrub and step with salt water. And scrub the step with salt water. You can also feed your natural wood furniture with scented essential oil, using a base of oil such as almond oil, and then add a few drops of essential oil of your choice using a dusting cloth. Please test a small area of your furniture with this first, or make sure it is okay to use. Room spray. Using spray bottle, a base of distilled water, boiled, cooled kettle water. Add 12 to 21 drops of essential oil to half a cup of water. Some recipe ideas: chase away house cleansing spray, half a cup of distilled water, 9 drops of lavender oil, 9 drops of myrrh oil, 3 drops of rosemary oil. Whole soul heal spray, 9 drops of geranium oil, 9 drops of palmarosa oil, 3 drops of lime oil, and to finish off, add shiny coins under the furniture and into the corners of each room. Put lemons in a bowl in your dining room for luck and good energy. Keep fresh flowers in your home. All these things are to help keep the spirits happy and to honour your ancestors. Cleansing the spiritual you. The spiritual cleansing and blessing extends from the home to you with bath salt and sachet blends, herbal soaps, oils and waters. All can be made and used with specific intents. Bath crystals. 2 cups of sea salt or sea salt crystals, 1 cup Epsom salts, quarter of a teaspoon of essential oil, combination that works for you. Experiment. Body powder paste. 2 tablespoons of baking powder, 5 tablespoons of arrowroot or cornstarch, 1 tablespoon ground orris root. Then add ground herbs and essential oils of your choice. Dried orange peel, marigold petals, lemon balm, neroli oil, lavender buds, and oils. Use the herbs and scents that balance with your intent. Florida water. This is a good one to entice good spirits, feed the ancestors, and to use on your altar and yourself. 16 ounces distilled water, quarter of a cup 100% proof vodka. 6 drops lavender essential oil, 2 drops clove essential oil, 8 drops bergamot essential oil. Put in a spray bottle, keeps for about 2 months. Candles, seasons, and altars. Hoodoo involves a lot of candle magic, similar to that of witchcraft. Colour magic is used to correspond the candle to your intent. And candles are dressed in a similar way, with an emphasis on creating your own oil blends to dress the candles with, as this gives them extra power. Hoodoo have the same approach, but about altars too, as we, kitchen witches, do, in that it is a place to focus intent, but it should reflect you and doesn't need to be fancy. Just a note here on candle wax and its disposal. Hoodoo tradition advises that leftover wax from used candles should be disposed of with care. Wrap the wax in paper or cloth and bury it in the soil. If you have used it for a particularly complex matter, bury it in a graveyard. And if you have used the wax for hexes, it should be buried at a crossroads. If the candle was used for banishing or breaking hexes, throw it over your left shoulder in a storm, retrieve it after 3 days and bury it at a crossroads. Foot track magic. Our feet are important. They carry us wherever we need to go, but they also bring us into contact with the earth and thereby to spirit and the divine. We should be aware of how we walk, how we hold ourselves, and how we conduct ourselves. A hoodoo that wants to cause harm will take note of an enemy's pathway and use it against her or him by causing obstructions. It may be something simple like a mess of blueberries on your pathway, causing you distress, or mustard seeds because as you walk on those, they crunch and are annoying. One of the most famous hoodoo workings is hot foot powder. This is designed to keep unwanted people off your property, but it also works on enemies, bullies, or people that won't take the hint. Hot foot powder. Quarter of a cup of cayenne pepper. Quarter of a cup of salt. You can also use black salt. Quarter of a cup black pepper. I usually chuck in a spoonful of red peppercorns too, and sometimes, to give an extra kick, a sprinkle of hot chili powder. Mix the ingredients together and charge them with your intent. If you're intending on keeping a particular person out or a particular bully, then you should name them as you mix, requesting them to stop. To use as a protective barrier around your house, sprinkle on your perimeter. To use for a particular person, you need to sprinkle some into their footprints or their usual pathway. Powders. Powders are used a lot in hoodoo. Sprinkling powders, blowing powders, and feeding powders. Sprinkling and blowing powders are usually called sachet powders. They can be used to purify and protect a room, your home, and your property. They can also be used to bring things to you such as money, happiness, and love. They can also be sprinkled on another's property to set a jinx in place, and they are used in mojo bags to feed the ash. There is a basic set of ingredients used in the powders such as sugar, magnetic sand, salt, graveyard dirt, cayenne pepper, black pepper, and sulfur. Talcum powder is often added too. The naming of sachet powders works on the same principle as the oils. The names derive from the intent and purpose of the trick. Blowing sachet powders involves blowing, that was obvious, wasn't it? The powder towards a person or their representation, a photo for example. Or blowing the powder to the 4 directions, north, east, south and west, to bring good and positive energy. Sprinkling sachet powders is often done by walking backwards using foot track magic. Taking 21 steps, you walk backwards, bent over, sprinkling the powder as you go. 21 steps are important because it is 3 times 7. But you can use any variation of steps as long as it uses 3, 7 or 9, all magical numbers. You might also like to say a chant or state your desire as you sprinkle the powder too. You can also use conjure powders for laying down tricks, which involves using the powder to make different patterns or sigils. These can be done on the ground for the intended person to walk through or across. They can also be done on your altar when you are working with a candle spell or within ritual. Your candles can also be dressed with a powder. Dress it first with oil and then add the powder for extra oomph. Powders can also be used to dress your hands. Start by cleansing your hands. Soap and water will do. Put a dousing in Florida, but a dousing in Florida water or alcohol works best. Then allow them to dry in the air. Next, rub your hands together to create a feeling of heat. Put a pinch of your chosen powder into your hands and then rub together and evenly distribute the powder. Then, using the first 2 fingers of your right hand, make an X sign on your left palm. You can also quote a prayer or blessing at this point. Spit on your hands and rub them together. Very useful if you like to gamble. Powders can be sprinkled onto paperwork for tests and applications along with love letters. Use your imagination and the ideas are limitless. If you use natural and safe ingredients in your powders, you can also use them on your body. Sachet powder recipes. For all these recipes, use talcum powder or cornstarch, corn flour, as a base. Then add the other ingredients to it. Use quantities that seem right to you. Grind all the ingredients in a pestle and mortar until they form a powder. Again, these recipes are my own blends based on traditional hoodoo ideas. Money drawer powder. Frankincense, magnetic sand, basil, poppy seeds, cinnamon. Come to me powder. Sandalwood, myrtle, frankincense, rose oil. 4 Thieves vinegar. In 1772, during the plague, 4 thieves made a habit of robbing the graves of the dead and stealing their precious items. As they came from a family of perfumers, they knew the properties of herbs, so they made a garlic-infused vinegar to rub on their bodies to protect them from the plague. Although thankfully we no longer have to worry about the plague, the four thieves' vinegar is useful protection if applied to the body and for immunity when taken. Half a teaspoon of the vinegar mix in 8 ounces of water. If you don't fancy using the garlic, you can replace that with an antibacterial or antiseptic herb, such as rosemary or sage. 16 ounce of cider vinegar or white vinegar, 4 cloves of garlic. Mince the garlic and add a drop of the vinegar to it and mash it until soft. Spoon the garlic into a sterilized jar or bottle and pour the rest of the vinegar. Swirl daily for 3 to 4 weeks. You could make up a chant whilst you swirl, along with the lines of sending evil on its way and keeping you protected. Petition papers. Petition papers and name papers are slips of paper that you write a person's name on, a symbol, a sigil, or short phrase corresponding with the intent of your spell work. Mostly, the petition papers and name papers are placed under a candle, added to a mojo bag or a bottle. Name papers will have a person's name on, the intended recipient of the spell, whilst a petition paper will have a wish or a desire on it. You can add to the oomph of the spell by using coloured ink to write on your paper. So, for instance, black ink for protection and reversing spells, or green ink for money spells. In traditional hoodoo, only red or black ink would be used, and often it would be dove's blood, dragon's blood, or bat's blood ink. What paper you use is up to you. You can tear a small piece from a brown paper bag or a sheet of printed paper. You could use a handmade parchment. Using paper with torn edges allows the magic to seep out. Use scissors for banishing petitions or for cutting ties with someone or something. As a general guide for using petition papers, you would write the person's name or your wish on the slip of paper 3 times. Then turn the paper 90 degrees clockwise. Write the name or wish again 3 times over the top of the first ones. The petition paper should then be dressed with a suitable oil blend. The petition paper is then folded. To draw things to you, the paper should be folded towards you. To banish something, fold the paper away from you. Either way, keep folding the paper until you can fold it no more. The petition paper can then be placed under a candle in a mojo bag or a bottle. Homework. 1. Make a mojo bag and feeding powder with a specific intent. Detail how you would make it and what you would use and why. Please include photographs. 2. Make a room spray. What would you use and why? 3. Make a hot foot powder. Choose an ingredient to add to make it personal. What did you use and why? 4. Make a sachet powder. Detail what intent you set, if or and what you used and why. 5. How do you feel about working with hoodoo? Have you found it ties in with magical practices you are already familiar with? Homework for each lesson should be emailed to Ness or Heather at the usual email address.